What the fuck did I just read?
The Russian
Look.
National Guard and security forces have now stormed the tarmac. What?
Oh yeah, the whole airport.
Martyr,
The TASS article on that is interesting. They just mention there are people there, but not why.
I saw that one.
It's really funny. Yeah, there are people. We're trying to get rid of them. No, don't ask why they're there. And now look into low effort to see what kind of shit I have discovered. Oh yeah. Also, Snore, have you seen the new Palestine flag I have pinged you with? Drexler, have you seen it too?
Yeah, I saw the Pakistan LGBTQ flag. I even saw protesters with it a couple of days ago, actually.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's an interesting bunch.
One of my new favorite subreddits is the German subreddit r/Kommunismus, which is really funny to read. You have like two people there. One is a Leninist, Stalinist, Maoist, and like an anarchist, and we're just throwing giant text walls at each other with links containing links, which leads to even bigger text walls. And it's so deranged and so funny. And that they're 100% serious about the shit they're saying makes it even better. There was this big thread about the Cultural Revolution in China. And like seeing people trying to brand Great Leap Forward as a success. It's so funny. We should have started it 50 seconds ago. That isn't very German of you. Okay. In retrospect, perhaps we should have advertised that earlier. Yeah. But keep in mind, your children are temporary, whilst the Eurocast is eternal.
Not about this episode.
Looking forward to me in 5 years getting cancelled for the deranged shit I said on the server.
Oh boy.
Yeah, welcome to this very delayed episode of the Eurocast. Let me check YouTube if I'm still sounding like a robot. I listened to the VOD just to hear my really original jokes once more. And yeah, I sounded like a coffee machine that tried to be a comedian. Yeah, and yeah.
Good evening.
Upfront, the most important thing, which intelligence agency is sponsoring us today? I say Mossad.
Nah.
Yeah.
I would all. So,
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, and one thing that also happened this week, which also got a bit overlooked, or was it this week? I don't know. My sense of time just got nuked. Here, clashes in the seas of the Philippines.
oh yeah.
Mm, mm.
I mean,
I want
they
one
are for power
too.
protection, so yeah, I think it's heating up a bit.
Like, no, there's one in the Red Sea. One crossed the Straits of Gibraltar a few days ago, and one is offshore of Israel already. Three, five carriers deployed, which means I think they have still 6 left.
I mean, depending on how you count carriers, they also
I
have
mean,
landing
yeah,
ships.
they have
Also
escort
carry
carrier,
planes.
and helicopter carriers. I mean, like the big ones, like the main battle fleet carriers thingies.
Exactly. Oh man.
J- Just gonna say, aircraft carriers are such beautiful aircraft.
I mean, can't we just get
Ships.
Germany? Can't we just get Germany to build a few aircraft carriers? You know, just call them frigates. That's probably the best thing.
No. This will
It
be the
would be a
long-awaited.
very Russian
This will be
thing
the
to do.
long-awaited sequel to the German frigate. We will name these things destroyers.
Isn't the Russian aircraft carrier actually a rocket destroyer or something like that officially? Because they built it in the Black Sea and they had to get it to the Bosporus, and no aircraft carrier is allowed to get through it, so it isn't actually officially an aircraft carrier.
I mean,
I mean,
like I'm just gonna point out that thing has a cope slope and henceforth and thus is not really a true aircraft carrier, but a disgrace to the nation that built it. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's like a little Hot Wheels ramp for your puny aircraft. Just build a fucking catapult. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, carrier is. Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I mean, there is a need to project security in this ever more dangerous world.
I mean,
Simply because it's in our interest to defend our trading lanes and shit like that. Like in the Middle East, Egypt is about to blow up if Gaza gets worse, and a lot of trade goes through Suez. So what are we going to do if Egypt just decides to close Suez to increase pressure on us? That would be really, really
yeah, but
expensive.
I think there's one big problem with a Eurocarrier because, first of all, who has the final say when it's deployed? Because there's no way in hell each and every country will agree that the Commission just can deploy them at their leisure. So each mission will have to be approved by a unanimous vote of the Union. And I can already tell which country will veto everything. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, in Spain.
Oh man, Napoleon did that last time, didn't end too well. Mm.
Mm.
Mhm. Mm. I mean,
No
didn't
kind of EU military will work anytime soon as long as we need unilateral support. Yeah, unanimous
yeah.
support. Yeah. They, but I mean, the a couple of EU states are trying to tackle that. Remember earlier this year, I think, the initiative to remove unanimous votes on foreign policy issues in the EU. I think.
Okay. I
Oh God.
see one big problem getting that through. Do
I
you
mean, of
know
course.
which one it is?
I mean, it's more than one, honestly. There are a lot of European states which have a lot of different policy agendas. This whole Middle Eastern thing just showed that. It's not just
Mm.
Hungary. Of
I
course,
mean,
Hungary is.
no, the issue I was trying to point out is that everyone would have to agree to that. And, well, I can already tell you how a vote will go out where you say, okay, everybody has to agree that not everyone has to agree for making something pass.
Yeah. Yeah. You got you got ripped, you got ripped apart.
Oh yeah,
So,
oh yeah,
I
still
mean,
remember that one insane Irish lady. Do you know which one? The one who was also very pro-Putin.
Ishinger, the ex-diplomat of Germany and ex-head of the Munich Security Conference, today proposed that we look back into a multi-speed Europe, basically, to tackle this issue if we can't get everyone to agree on these things. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it is visible. I mean, there's no need to deny that in any point.
Mm.
And
No, no,
I think Ishinger's proposal would go even farther because he certainly is advocating for some kind of security union. So it's more than just a Visegrad-like group. He really
okay.
wants deep integration of willing countries. Sorry.
Yeah, we're getting a bit too credible here. No, since you mentioned Visegrad and two-speed Europe, what if, hear me out, we make our own Visegrad, but made out of the core original EU states, and we kind of need a cool synonym for that, and I think you can't make one out of the letters G, F, N, B, L, and I.
Insightful B? I don't know. I'm just saying. No, but I mean, how are we going to get this even put into legalese, as it were? I mean, we'd have to have a treaty change to create a really true multi-speed Europe, because at this moment, it's in the treaties, it's impossible. I don't really see it happening, to be honest.
At least not in the structures of the European Union.
Exactly.
It would create parallel structures, and well,
I mean,
it would endanger Europe kind of in itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the countries which are most likely to support basically offloading their foreign policy onto the EU, right? I think it's probably Germany, the Benelux, right? But not France. France has always been very, very independent with its overseas territories.
They were always very adamant about their strategic autonomy.
Yeah. Poland now is maybe a toss-up. I mean, it kind of depends who will be the next,
I think
France.
Poland could be likely. Honestly, if Tusk's getting into power, which looks likely, he will play a huge role in Europe.
Yeah.
As an elder statesman of some sorts.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it'll be interesting. I mean, we saw this week, right? Rutte wants to become NATO head, right?
No, Boris Johnson's for NATO president.
Yeah,
but
I thought he was running for mayor of Kiev.
Yeah.
But one thing that people don't really often ask is, are we actually ready for deep integration? Because
I don't think we are. Honestly,
yeah,
I think we are really underestimating
neither.
Costs.
Because at this point, how should I phrase this? It kind of takes time for the idea of a united Europe to kind of take its roots. I mean, you can already see it happening. The German AfD removed from their party program this year that they wanted to disband the European Union. or rather leave the European Union.
Mm.
Now they want their own version of the European Union, but I think, in my opinion, that already shows a shift in sentiment that this organization across Europe is already a fact that cannot be changed, or rather,
I think
is.
honestly,
I mean, it can.
with Brexit and the
Hmm?
lessons out of it.
Hmm? Yeah.
Basically all right-wing European parties abandoned exiting the European Union after the experiences of Brexit. So I don't think the AfD is any kind of special there. Orban is constantly talking about this Europe of nations, which the AfD just copied.
Yeah, I think I mean, leaving the European Union is off the table for now, but there are more, that there are signs that it's coming back, as it were,
Mm.
So
I sincerely doubt that. The Brits have just the Brits have created just such a colossal clusterfuck that the Stammstafiner will be a shining beacon for generations to come. Not to do that.
yeah, we'll see, But I mean, going back to kind of the idea of Europe as a global power, I think without being able to project power coherently, I think the EU will be nothing more than a trade bloc to most people, and that's the danger. That's what we see in the Israel-Palestine thing as well,
Being in
regardless
the
of all
European
the
Union is more draw, but
yeah, I mean, we saw all the stuff. The Hungarian commissioner came out and he said, "Well, we're not giving anything to Palestine anymore." And after that, there was a whole lot of confusion. But apart from that, right, I don't see that the European Union has enough clout to be able to project itself, even across the Mediterranean, as it were. You without having a credible, the voice of one, as it were, right? And I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, we had the European Council. They came up with a quite a good statement. It took them 5 hours to make the statement on Israel and Palestine, right? Which was quite good. Basically it said we recognize the right for Israel to defend itself, but you do have to watch out for the Palestinian civilians, and they really have to be helped. But we can't provide security guarantees for anyone, whereas the United States can put two aircraft carriers off the coast of Israel, and suddenly nothing, no one tries anything anymore. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but you also have to keep in mind that the European Union is not a state, as much as I would love for that to be.
true.
That is kind of the wrong tool for the wrong job, because the European Union, as it stands today, is more of a multinational organization that is for the nations within that organization, not to project power outside of that.
True. It's more of an internal, European thing than
it's
I mean, there's been attempts to change that. I mean, you do see von der Leyen and Michel go abroad and talk to people that matter, and sometimes it does work.
Yeah. Yeah. In
I don't
matters
think anyone
of
is taking it particularly serious outside of the EU.
yeah, I mean, in matters of trade allegations, they are taken quite serious, but I think the EU is most
We are
powerful.
a trade bloc at most.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, and I think it's nonsensical to add a military to that, which has on paper would have a command structure that is more dysfunctional than the HRE or the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Yeah, because that's what we would be recreating. We would recreate the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Now that I think about it, where one veto can bring the whole thing down.
Yeah, exactly. And it also, I mean, we're also dependent on, the national governments in that case, how much, I mean, if you look at the decision structure for foreign policy, we would have to have a foreign minister, a proper foreign minister, not the high representative that we have now. Which I mean, the EU does have. We do have commitments in Africa. We have troops in Cyprus, in the Middle East. But it's all under peacekeeping authority, and their
I mean, what
mandate
does
is
that
very,
even
very
mean?
small.
Yeah, exactly. Like they wouldn't do anything if anything would happen.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like Ireland, how they are like they're part of the NATO K4 brigade, but they're basically civilians who are allowed to carry weapons instead of proper troops. So it kind of reminds me, that's kind of what the EU is in the Middle East, civilians who occasionally carry guns. So it's not very helpful. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's the ground invasions just started, right? And we saw yesterday there was a massive vote in the UN, and the EU was completely split. Right, you had a number of states supporting the U.S. and Israel in rejecting the UN vote, but you also had a lot of abstainers and also a lot of countries voting for it. For an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. And it shows that it's going to be super hard, even in a conflict which is not very controversial, I'd say, to come to some agreement and come to an agreement fast in some cases. I mean,
Yeah, but yeah, one thing that's often overlooked is one thing in that is just displayed in the news is the headline. And the content that is in the resolution is quite often something that is very different from that or often contradictory.
yeah,
My favorite example for that is the Russian condemnation of fascism and genocide,
yeah,
which,
exactly.
because in that resolution, how it was worded, basically justified the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But they could basically say everyone who is against voted against that is a fascist.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically, one thing that I read about that ceasefire or the demand for ceasefire was, for example, that Austria, Czechia, and Hungary and Croatia, I think, those three voted, for example, against it.
Yeah,
With one of the nation's foreign minister or representative to the UN or whatever, some guy in a suit, explaining that they voted against it because it does not condemn Hamas or
yeah, it wasn't strong enough
yeah,
on Hamas and terrorism, basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
and with some other nations abstaining whilst arguing it's just empty words. There's nothing coming from it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, when you look at the what's how are we going to create a European state from this? From this there's no central voice in the UN, even though the EU is a permanent non-voting member of the Security Council. I think having the EU project power in this way is not going to work, right? So what's the end game for the EU then? We can't remain as a as a non-functioning member of the international community in this way.
Yeah, but that process will be a very, very long one. I highly doubt that you even see the final results, nor sorry to tell you that.
Oh, I'll be long dead before the European Union finalizes. That's for sure, But I'd like to see the start of it, and it has to be discussed because otherwise, we won't get anywhere.
Yeah,
But
I think we are currently in the critical phase, or actually we're already behind that, where the European Union has to survive, or at least the concept of a united Europe, which it luckily had with, for example, Orban now I personally count that as a giant win. That Orban is now yelling about unite Europe of nations, because even that is still a united or more or less united Europe, but you get the gist.
Yeah, exactly. And the profile of the European Union has gone up a lot as well since Brexit. You know, I think Brexit was the first real contact that the American public had with the European Union. Since then, of course, COVID, Ukraine, Russia, and now Israel. Well, Israel, Palestine. The European Union has not done such a good job as profiling itself. But
I mean, it's not even important for U.S. populace to have contact with EU. The Brexit, first and foremost, showed people in Europe what a chaos there would be without an EU, or how dramatic it would be for a European economy to leave the EU.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but also, the projection outside as well. What can the EU do? What is the EU? I'm glad that thank you, Britain, for sacrificing yourself yet again, right?
Brits finally deciding they have enough from being the bad guy and taking one for the team.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's see them do the same thing in Israel, right? Oh gosh. But there was a Pew poll which came out this week, in which people broadly view of the EU was broadly favourable, both in the member states and elsewhere. So the European Union is doing something right, at least. I think maybe not being able to project power is perhaps even a good thing in some respects.
Oh man, I'm sorry, Snore. Just Drax in chat is so fucking funny. You know how Elon Musk replies with the same set of 6 words?
Yeah.
Like concerning or an exclamation mark. Drax's responses are always starting with indeed.
That is true.
And it's just oh man, I'm sorry.
But Drax is right,
so
right?
Funny to me.
So I mean, the EU kind of advances in a crisis. Exactly, reform usually happens via revolution or war.
Is what it is.
Yeah, exactly, and the EU as well. We saw during COVID, that there are a lot of medical competences were transferred over to the EU. For example, when they had to negotiate for the COVID vaccine prices, that was all. In first instance, it was a giant soup, and all the member states did its own thing, and then it became very clear that if you act together, that you have a stronger voice. But it's different in foreign policy, though, isn't it? Because in foreign policy, every country has its own history with the with the opposite countries involved. So, for example, if you talk about Russia, we see that the Polish are very much pro-Ukraine when it comes to the invasion of Ukraine, because they have a very strong connection to Russia.
I think Poland is first and foremost just anti-Russian.
Yeah,
considering
exactly. But if you look at, for example,
recent
Spain or
tensions
Italy,
between Poland
yeah,
and Ukraine. Yeah.
But if you look at, for example, Spain or Italy, they're not traditionally that. And, even though the invasion shocked them, into cutting contacts with Russia, the cultural links are still there, aren't they? So, yeah, it's oh man, may we live in interesting times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that? Lennon did say a lot of bullshit, but I think one quote that he absolutely nailed is, "There are years where weeks happen, and there are weeks where years happen," or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've been experiencing those weeks where years happen for quite a while, haven't we? Oh gosh. But foreign policy wise, to kind of segue into the Ukraine Russia thing, right? When we're seeing now kind of the coalition start to kind of get its first tears. You know. Oh yeah, of course, and Turkey as well. We've got Turkey, we've got Hungary, who are standing on the sidelines when it comes to Ukraine.
Wasn't Orban recently in Russia to shake Putin's hand for some new
Exactly.
trade deals?
Yeah. He was just there to see his friend, of course. Nothing. But I mean, these kind of things show that there's not really unity, right? And it really depends on the country and how they kind of perceive the world and how they're going to react foreign policy wise. I mean, internally, we can always come to some agreement in the EU, right? But externally, that does seem to be a big problem. So this week we also saw the Slovakians stopping the weapons deliveries to
Ukraine.
Yeah. So ouch.
I do think the European unity on Ukraine initially was quite a large outliner to basically every other issue we had thus far.
Yeah, true.
And this was actually something that must have been pretty shocking to other actors.
Yeah.
That the EU can be quite unified on one issue.
Yeah,
Even
I think we
Hungary.
surprised Russia for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
To be fair, that was quite a traumatizing thing for all of Europe. That thing was one giant shockwave for the entire continent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that it died down a bit after the Russians had to retreat from Kiev. After that, kind of became clear to everyone that Ukraine isn't going to lose anytime soon. So that the issue of defense against Russia is not actually this urgent as many had feared.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, you had Olaf Scholz with his Zeitenwende at the beginning, right?
And
that's kind
and
of,
then
and
nothing
now-
happening.
Yeah, no. I mean, he did put a lot of money aside for the Bundeswehr, right? So what was it, 100 billion? So
Yeah.
that money is being spent now, right? But when
Basically getting stretched over 3 years.
yeah.
Basically, the initial idea at that point was that Germany was to increase its defense budget to 2% and an additional 100 billion.
Yeah.
But after the Russians retreated from Kiev, the pressure wasn't there anymore, and they started to basically use the 100 billion fund to get to the 2%.
Yeah, to the 2% NATO minimum requirement, basically, which was, by the way, which was set by Trump. So thank you, Trump. Right?
Yeah, honestly, that was the one thing where I agreed with him that we need that 2% spending just to have a proper military, because I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago where the US determined that Britain is no longer capable of defending itself.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
And-
sure if 2% is a guarantee for the ability to defend it yourself.
It
I mean-
isn't, but it is way better than 1.3.
Yeah. Kind of depends what you spend it on, If you always spend it on one giant castle, maybe not, But I mean, when we also see that now the kind of slowdown with the idea of not sending the Taurus
But
missiles.
will make it a lot less dysfunctional, or at least not a lot less under-equipped.
Exactly. Maybe not less dysfunctional, because I mean that would be changing the management culture of the Bundeswehr, and I don't think that's ever been done successfully, right?
I mean, a lot of our defense budget is currently spent on soldier pensions, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Drex, you're free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Could be. Might be. I actually.
Pyrus in the chat says, "Imagine how cool of a castle we could build with 2% of all EU member states spending together. That would be a very, very big castle. I think Fortress Europe comes to mind, right? But that's basically what we're doing.
I have an idea how to solve the migration crisis. Like along the southern border of Europe, we just built the old star fortresses like they were been built in the 17th century.
Yeah, or like Paul says in the chat, just build the Great Wall of Europe. So
Yeah, build a wall.
I love it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, I think walls are very inefficient. I like minefields more.
Yeah.
They don't make the landscape ugly.
Unless
Yeah.
someone steps on it.
Yeah, exactly. Unless
I mean,
someone steps on one and then suddenly the
I mean,
landscape is very ugly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if someone steps on it, that person won't be there for very long.
Yeah.
Nor will their remains if their charge is strong enough.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Nerdy Strop Alpha asks, how are you going to deal with those annoying things like bodies of water? Well, I mean,
Have you
mean,
heard
you
of
can-
that neat things called naval mines?
or right, as a Dutch person, we just polder it, right? We just kind of take over little
No.
bits of it and just fill it with mines, right?
No.
Some German have that insane
Like,
idea to build that bridge from Africa to Europe,
Oh yeah.
Spain. That dam.
Like,
Oh, wouldn't that dry out the
you mean
Mediterranean?
Atlantropa? Yeah, that would fuck like half of Europe's economies. No.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know we were actually talking about useful things here.
Wait,
Like,
hold on, right? So, useful things and the Eurocast, that doesn't go together, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. Hear me out. We have to just dump. Okay, I'm gonna steal from the Cyberpunk 2077 lore because hear me out. During the Third Corporate War, Arasaka deployed a AI-driven naval minefield made out of self-replicating naval mines.
Oh.
And problem was at one point the AI determined that Arasaka's ships are just hostile ships, which are disguised as Arasaka ships, so that basically you can't traverse the ocean anymore. but we should do that totally in the Mediterranean. The world will be perfect once like a Sicilian fishing trawler leaves the port and just explodes.
Yeah, but the Russians are way ahead of us in that, because this week a minefield layer of theirs was killed by their own mines, right? In the port, near the port of Sevastopol. So the Russians are already way ahead of us on that one, Oh gosh, when I read about that, I mean, it didn't even surprise me anymore, right? I was like, oh yeah, okay, Russia just ran into its own mines. Okay, that just happens.
There was one point, I think it was maybe a month into the invasion,
Yeah.
where I was like, okay, maybe Ukrainians are not only just surviving that, but they may actually be winning.
Yeah.
I think it was around the time. It was around the time where that clip came around with that one Ukrainian soldier saying, "We're lucky they're so stupid."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but look at basically what happened, right? Russia invaded en masse. They managed to get the corridor from Crimea to Russia through Donetsk and Luhansk, right? That was one part of the move, and the other part of the move was to take over Kharkiv, Kherson, and get towards Odessa. Basically, that was their plan. But the Ukrainians routed them in Kharkiv and Kiev. First Kiev, then Kharkiv, and then Kherson. And
one thing that you forget before that, they actually tried to get to Odessa, but they were stopped outside of Mykolaiv. Then they tried to bypass that by kind of trying to go around it, but they were stopped there too.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, but this war just doesn't surprise me anymore. It's after the furries stood up in Moscow for Prigozhin, that was it. I was done, right? Oh gosh. Oh, terrible.
This world is such a shit show.
Yeah.
But
another thing that kind of hinges on that, Erdogan sent Sweden's NATO accession to the Turkish parliament this week,
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wasn't that shot down again?
No, it was. They're not going to talk about it until after Christmas, right? After the New Year.
Ah,
So,
okay.
so we don't know yet, right? But things are happening at least, which are trying to kind of get Ukraine some or Erdogan's not completely in Russia's camp, right? However, when you saw what
I mean,
what Erdogan's
Erdogan first and foremost is in his own camp.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and now you see today, I think, or no, yesterday Erdogan had a rally in which he claimed to have rights to a number of NATO states, including Macedonia and Greece. To their
Territory?
yeah, to their territory. So I mean. We're not stable
I
yet,
mean,
guys. This could still change, and also morale
yeah,
for Ukraine can still change with that. It's going to be
yeah,
hard.
but that stuff with we have rights to their lands. That's stuff that we've been hearing for years. I mean, we even are hearing that from Orban. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's more of a populist rhetoric.
Yeah, it's
So
I mean, it's really hard to kind of get into what's happening on the ground right now because of the OPSEC. All we know is that the Ukrainians are heavily in battle in Avdiivka right now with Russia.
Advinka.
Yeah.
Isn't it pronounced Advinka?
I have no idea. But
Wait, Drax, you need to be the tiebreaker.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have
Anyone?
the slightest clue.
Can someone in chat just say that I'm right? I kind of need this, guys, please.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Okay, 9.
Okay,
says Sular.
Okay, yeah, but Sula, hear me out. You're Bavarian, and hence your opinion is invalid. Thank you, Paul from Chicago.
Oh, wonderful. No, but
Hold up,
it's like
hold
you
up.
said
In
before.
which state is Chicago in? I have a new favorite state.
But there you go. It's still a long
Illinois, my new favorite state.
Yeah. Oh
Whatever.
dear.
Russia is a country, Chicago is a state.
Yeah.
Illinois is my new favorite
Yeah,
state.
Illinois is nice.
Yeah. Before that, it was Michigan.
Yeah, no, my favorite state is still going to be California, guys. So.
Of course. Yeah. You
Anyway,
stoner.
that was Ukraine. We don't know what's going on the ground right now. We know that the support for Ukraine is kind of flagging in the EU. That there was also, this thing that was this week with the budget. The EU is looking for 50 billion to basically pass the year and make it until about 2028 with their budget. Because we've already kind of run out of money. We've spent all the money that we had. And the Czech Republic and was it Slovakia and Hungary are stopping it right now, stopping the budget from proceeding because of Ukraine. Basically, they don't want to spend more money on Ukraine. Most of the states have kind of gotten around that because it turns out that the EU still has some money in a pocket somewhere, which they forgot to it's down the back of the couch. About 14 billion.
Is it like the Pentagon accidentally miscalculating the aid to Ukraine and saying like, "Hey, yo, we have like 16 billion."
Yeah, exactly.
Or something along those lines.
Right? So there's still 14 billion unused EU funds somewhere, so they're going to try to use that first. But, in December, we're going to have the next European Council. I think it's going to be one of the last European Councils before the election kicks off in June. And, the budget will have to be approved then. And, it's going to be a real fight. So, this is something that, we've been following on Forum Gottefunken for about, since the last one. So that's 2019, right? There was a massive battle over the funds for that, especially, because that dragged into COVID. that made it kind of easier to come to an agreement because people were, people were suffering, and things had to be done straight away. But when you're talking about Ukraine, that's an external problem for the EU. So it's going to be really hard to get extra funds for them. And of course, what's going on in the States right now, with the funding for Ukraine being stuck in Congress because the Republicans decided to throw a wobbler and throw their speaker out. It doesn't make it all that stable for Ukraine either. So Ukraine's up for some hard times, especially in the winter. I think the most kind of hopeful thing there is that Ukraine's going to be getting its F-16 soon. Right? I'm really looking forward to that, guys. Oh gosh, I think in December we're going to see that happen. The Ukrainian F-16 starting to show up on the battlefield. So, it's going to be great. Oh yeah, and of course, thanks, Paul. I forgot to mention the shutdown coming in. Yeah, in the US. Oh gosh.
Yeah. I have a confession to make. I don't really have time anymore to keep up with anything anymore. So I'm just kind of reacting to shit when I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Me and Drax, we're on top of things, right?
Yeah, Drax, please tell me you have finally cut down on your doom scrolling. I'm really worried about you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I know I'm joking a lot, but this isn't a joke. I was really concerned for you.
I mean, I was pretty down.
Yeah. I think I think the thing about following the news like we do is there's periods of intense action followed by periods of blissful peace, or at least things are happening on the ground, but it's not it's not urgent.
No,
urgent.
I wouldn't call it blissful peace. I would describe it more what I have witnessed here as a dreadful silence.
Yeah, true. But me, Drax, and Black Owl were the news junkies of the server for sure, right? And it's very, very hard to kind of disconnect from that, especially during like the really geopolitically relevant events, right? And we saw that during the invasion of Ukraine. The first few days were insane, right? We didn't know what was happening. People were laughing and crying at the same time. And the same thing is happening basically now with Israel and Palestine, right? People are, and that does affect us, and we do see all this stuff.
To be fair, it's really hard to find anything that compares to the early days of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because I still remember the mood. Like, I was still in high school back then. The way I learned about it was I was on the way to school or way early in the morning at 6 or 7. No, at 6, and I was scrolling in my phone, and I decided to read up on the news that I missed.
Yeah.
And on my phone, like, I still have the Tagesschau app, like, and just a news app, and had like it was full stuff with sirens over Kiev, missile impacts over Kharkiv. Missile alert in Odessa, and I'm like, fuck's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
And like, there was no... Of course, there were lessons taking place, but no one was paying attention. We were all looking on our phones or laptops and watching the situation unfold.
Yeah, exactly, It's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of 9/11, right? Because that was also something that happened far away, and and basically ground the whole world to a halt. And same thing with the invasion in Ukraine, Yeah.
I mean, Ukraine is a lot closer to us than 9/11.
Yeah, that's true. Same thing goes for Israel right now. I mean, for them, this Hamas slaughter which they initiated is a big thing, right? And it shocked all of us, right? But for people that follow the news, it's especially hard because we get to see these images firsthand, right? We do see the bodies and stuff. Now, what I've done is on my, I have a number of Twitter feeds which people can follow, and which cover most of the reputable sources that I can find for OSINT, for EU news, those kind of things. I do try to sanitize them, so that you don't get to see the dead bodies. And, you just get the reports of them. So, that when someone says it over there, it's trustworthy. Because, I don't want to see that stuff anymore, right? And I don't think many people do, It's not newsworthy at some point, if you get what I mean,
No, the Israel stuff was absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
And
It's like
I
butcher.
I got the feeling it was even more in view than
Yeah.
anything else. I'm not sure if it had something to do with Twitter just not moderating anything anymore,
Yeah,
or
that as well.
they just published more.
Thanks,
I don't
you
know.
ass,
Yeah, like holy shit, that
Yeah.
was something else.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, all the Palestinian Hamas terrorists had GoPros on them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that gives you images that you wouldn't believe, right? And that makes it, for people that see all this stuff, it makes it extra hard because we see all this stuff and it does affect you, and it does, you don't. It's very easy to say, yeah, I turn off my computer and then I'm out of there, But it does affect you if you see it. So yeah. So exactly, yeah, and Paul says something here as well. It's very, very terrible, and it's at the same time golden to prove war crimes. And there are people on Twitter who make it their mission to collect this stuff and send it to the war crimes tribunal. So that's at least good, But oh, horrible. Anyway, that's Ukraine, right? We've talked about Israel, Palestine. We've talked about Ukraine. Shall we start dragging people in, Jan? See if they want to chat. Yeah.
Hey, yo, Paul, get your ass on the stage.
raise your hand if you want to have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Come on, Paul.
yeah,
Yes.
there we go. And Nerdy Stroopwafel. Oh, very nice. Start with Paul though.
Yeah. Come on, Paul. Need to click accept. Hey.
All right, let's see. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, perfect, man.
Yes, sir. Welcome on
Okay.
the stage.
Hello.
So,
Hi from Chicago.
Good stuff,
Technically, I live in Northwest Indiana, but, I'm still within 45 minutes of downtown Chicago. If I
That's okay
drive.
then.
It's cheap taxes on this side of the border.
So I mean, we see you chat about what's going on basically in Ukraine and stuff like that. I mean, you're living in America. And I'm really interested, right? What are your views? What do you hear on the street, as it were, about support for Ukraine at the moment?
Well, it's pretty much a political divide, right? The liberals are supporting Ukraine, and I support Ukraine. But Republicans are kind of like, well, why are we spending all our money? It ain't our war. And I'm like, well, it could become our war,
Yeah.
if we get into it with Russia, we kind of need to keep them at bay. So I think we need to keep throwing hardware on whatever Ukraine needs.
Yeah. But
Now-
is it a topic of discussion that at let's say birthday parties or or is it?
Well, because we Americans are pretty self-centered, we forget about everything when the next crisis comes along.
Oh, yeah.
So right now in the local media, everybody's pretty much wrapped up with Israel.
Yeah.
And then of course, the whole drama with with the House Speaker and now the shutdown coming. So that's occupying people's minds at the moment. So Ukraine is still talked about, but I think a little less so right now. Until things get boring here again.
Yeah, and do you think that might be a good thing? I mean, if it's less talked about, it's less controversial as well, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it could be said that there's some war fatigue. There's always a crisis somewhere, and people are like, we just want to go on with our lives and put our head in the sand, and until something is directly affecting us.
Yeah, it's the same thing here.
I'm
I
not.
would say,
I'm generalizing here, of course. There's exceptions, but.
Yeah.
So-
I must say, I mean, it seems to be the same thing here. It's a little bit. There's a Dutch expression which is the far from my bed show, right? It's something you can watch on TV and it doesn't really affect you. And I think that's basically what's going on here as well. You know, I mean, you can see that in Germany as well. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's you know there's the support kind of depends on the political stance as well a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you know,
most of the most of the established parties are supporting Ukraine, except the AfD. The new Wagenknecht party, I don't know how that will fare. I still think it's really, 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 really funny.
yeah.
I kinda hope it just flops, takes down Die Linke and some AfD votes with it. Would be really, really funny.
I can't say I disagree. Although I do have, you know, I have a thought. There's some frustration with the Ukraine war in general because some people, myself included, actually think that the war was it could have been kind of unnecessary, right? And what I'm going to say is probably going to sound a little bit controversial because it's going to sound like I'm victim blaming, but I'm not really victim blaming the people of Ukraine. I'm more victim blaming the government of Ukraine because before all this war broke out, the EU was trying to woo Ukraine to join. And I don't know if anyone remembers, because this is some years ago now, but Ukraine was kind of playing let's make a deal. Like, okay, we want to join the EU, but what would you give for us in return? What benefits us, And then they were kind of playing us against Russia and going to Russia and saying, well, what if we were closer to you? What would you give to us? And they were kind of going back and forth with that.
Yeah.
Until one day Putin just said, what, let me just make the decision for you. And, and now the Ukraine is like, oh, we want to join the EU, we want to join and everybody here is like, no. You had your chance to join the gang, and you didn't join our gang, and now we're supposed to send our sons and daughters to go and die for you. You didn't join,
Yeah.
And that's why nobody wants to get into the war now, It's like, so it's terrible, all the crap that's happening to those people, those poor people that are being, like, just victimized and killed and raped and tortured and everything. But it's like, your freaking government should have just joined aside,
Yeah, I must say, this kind of resonates with me as well because there was a referendum in the Netherlands about allowing the Ukraine to join the EU, or at least, what kind of a trade agreement we would have with the EU, and this kind of played into that. I mean, this is before they invaded Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, right, in 2014.
Right. And I see the same thing happening. It's going to happen with Macedonia, probably. I mean, the Russians are already screwing with them now. And it's like, well, Macedonia's in the same boat. You didn't join a club. You're not in NATO. You're not in the EU. So who's going to go to war for you?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you're kind of on your own.
Like Nerdy Stroopwafel mentions in the chat, it was an association treaty. That's true. But still, this kind of played into the whole thing. Ukraine was very much in the Russian sphere until that moment. Until the Crimea / Luhansk and Donetsk invasion. With all the little green men and stuff like that. So there was.
Russia also did its best to get them or let them stay there.
Yeah.
Because they did try to assassinate Ukrainian leaders who were pro-EU and shit like that.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily purely natural that Ukraine wasn't.
Due to time limitations, I would like to invite Nerdy Stroopwafel.
Nerdy Stroopwafel. Yeah. Thanks very much, Paul. Nice speaking to you, man. We'll definitely speak again. Thanks. Right, let's get Nerdy in. Nerdy.
Yeah.
Herr Stroopwafel. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Ooh, yeah, hello. I'm joining from the most dysfunctional country in Europe, aka Belgium.
So, you sound exactly how I imagine you to sound.
How? Why? What do you think?
I don't know. You just sound like I imagined it.
It's like stroopwafels are they've got golden syrup in them, so he's expecting a very nice voice.
You're just looking for that exclusive shit, aren't you?
Yeah. So, hey, what were your thoughts? On the Ukraine issue?
Well, I may, as being a Dutch person, I have a very pragmatic view over this. Is, well, yes, I will support Ukraine, but I won't support as might be, very. It might be controversial what I'm about to say, but I won't support Ukraine unconditionally, because the fact of the matter is, the Ukrainian government is saying we want to regain all of our sovereignty, including Crimea and the whole shebang, and we will not stop until that has happened. I fundamentally disagree with that, because we are not going to change the fact that Russia is there. Russia is an extremely shit country. I guess everyone will agree with that, and it's a corrupt place filled with thieves and murderers. But it will be there. So it is in the interest of Ukraine as well that
Let me interdict there. That's
Sure.
the whole that's a whole purpose of a war. A country is there, and you don't want it to be there.
Yeah.
So you fight to make it not be there.
Yeah,
And
but
that's
are you seriously
basically
thinking
what Ukraine said. Russia is there. It shouldn't be there. We don't want it to be there. We're going to make it go away.
yeah.
No, but I mean on the world map, like in the whole geopolitical spectrum of things. That is not specific.
Are you trying?
Go ahead,
I mean,
sorry.
I kind of get what you're trying to say. I think, as far as I understand, I mean, yes, at some point Ukraine will have to make a peace with Russia, right?
Yes.
And but at what cost? That's always going to be the question. Is Ukraine going to retake Crimea? Possibly. I mean, possibly. But I think the reaction of Russia will matter a lot in this. So far they've managed to kind of say this is an existential war and things like that. But I think when it comes to Crimea, it might actually be that way. Because of Sevastopol and things like that. But Ukraine's still in the right in trying to reclaim its territory as much as possible.
I am not saying that Ukraine is morally wrong on this. I mean, Ukraine, it has every right to fight to regain its sovereign territory. It is, however, the question, and again, I'm not saying, but it is at a certain point now, as you say, because for all intents and purposes, the war is kind of stagnant at the moment. So at a certain point, you will have to, and I think that might not even be that far away, you will have to think about brokering a peace deal, and which would mean that Ukraine will have to make concessions, because again, in the whole geopolitical spectrum of things, Russia will be there. So, and then again, security of the Ukraine will have to be guaranteed by be it NATO, EU membership, or whatever, or some kind of wiggle in between thing. There are all kinds of political arrangements we could make, but I do think that we will have to sit at the table in the very near future to at least try or start the process of brokering a deal, which is the same what I think about Israel and Palestine. It would be very gracious of Israel, as being the stronger party in this conflict, to make appeasements to Palestine in this side, because you can keep on going with this, and I know this has been done for decades, but you're not doing anything. You're not going to eradicate Hamas, because it's a movement. It's not a group. It's a movement that is entrenched in the minds of people, which has to serve a purpose, being the liberation of Palestine. So you'll have to find a legitimate party and broker out something.
Yeah, I guess I mean I agree with you. I mean, as an aside, by the way, there were hilarious suggestions in the media this week that Putin had died, right? Which all came from one Telegram account, by the way. And Zelensky has said he'd never negotiate with Putin himself. That was one of his red lines. So we might still see some surprising stuff coming out this year, and same thing. I mean, with Israel. I mean, between Israel and Hamas, I mean, yes, Hamas is a movement, but I mean,
and a terrorist organization.
A terrorist movement, a terrorist organization. I think at some point. Israel will run into the wall that is, the Palestinian Authority, which is in the West Bank. They're having a really tough time right now with the settlers as well. And I think, unless
I mean, Hamas support in Gaza isn't actually that strong.
yeah, I think
Roughly
30%
4% of 24.
Oh,
24% of Gaza citizens would vote for them.
Yeah, exactly. So
when was that poll made?
2019, I think, right? Was that when the election was? When there was,
the article is from the 25th of October, but I have no idea from when those numbers are.
Well, we'll have to figure that out one of these days. Anyway, I think thanks very much, Storval, for your view. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we'll definitely speak again.
Lovely. Catch you around.
All right, perfect. And I think that's it for today, guys. Right? I think we've had it. It was a nice Eurocast. I don't think I can make it next weekend, unfortunately, because I've got prior engagements, family stuff going on.
Okay.
But maybe the week after we will.
Wait, Drexler, are you down for jumping in for Snore?
I don't think I am. Sorry to.
Okay, Snore. Would you be okay? Honestly, maybe having a Friday off would be nice.
Yeah. I think so. I think. I'll tell you, my mother broke her kneecap, so I have to take care of her next weekend when she comes back from the operation. So I could try, but chances are my internet connection won't be good because I'm going to be in the sticks of the Netherlands, right, all the way out in the in the wilds, where there's bears and stuff. And
no, what did your mother do to revoke her kneecap privilege?
Oh, she just got out of the car and she fell over. She's getting on, so that's a little bit. So, but I have to be there. But I will try to make it. So, anyway,
okay.
I think
A, you're a good son. B, that's the stupidest way to break your kneecaps I've heard.
I know. I'll give her all your best regards, guys. Seriously, it's much appreciated for her sake. Anyway, so let's convene not next weekend, but the weekend after. I suggest.
Diplomatic as ever. I say that's the dumbest way of breaking a kneecap I heard. I tell her you sent her regards.
Yeah. Hey man, they should hire me as a diplomat for Israel versus Palestine, man. I'd do so much magic, right?
Like they should hire me. I escalate that into a full-scale war within 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I think non-credible defense would be a great. Just get them involved, and it'll solve everything. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for listening. We'll continue this in the chat. And see you in 2 weeks.
I mean, you will continue that in the chat. I will bail because, unlike you, I have to actually work.
Okay. Well, speak to you later, guys. Night.
Night.